So it is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, and the first wave of free agency ended this past weekend. And now that the second wave has come to light this week, we are seeing that the Detroit Lions roster is definitely stronger after their recent moves. Detroit added a starting caliber edge player in Marcus Davenport, 2 starting caliber corners with Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, as well as re-signing a starting and reliable guard in he's actually a 3-way player, Graham Glasgow, and also a starting caliber right guard in Kevin Zeitler. So the Lions have made, massive moves this entire free agency period, including DJ Reader, which is a dominant defensive tackle signing that the Lions desperately needed. Per Over the Cap, the Lions started this week with about $31 million in remaining cap space. Doing a small restructure to Carlton Davis's contract has allowed the Lions to continue to be active buyers in the free agency period. They have some extensions that they need to get done, or at least it's been talked about, and this could allow for some of those contracts to come to fruition. So I wanted to take a look at some of the remaining positions of need for the Detroit Lions after this first week of free agency is now over. And I guess now that the dust has kind of settled a little bit and we know where this team is, let's take a look around the Detroit Lions roster and figure out what is really needed as the draft approaches. First up, I'd like to talk about the offensive line. Now, the Lions returned 4 of 5 starters along the offensive line in 2024 after re-signing right guard Graham Glasgow to a 3-year, $20 million contract. And after losing Jonah Jackson in free agency, who signed a 3-year, $51 million deal with the Los Angeles Rams, by ways of heading back, to a familiar face, right? Matthew Stafford. He's going back to protect Matthew Stafford once again, but that left a pretty big hole at left guard. And rather than leave things to chance in the draft, Brad Holmes worked pretty quickly on getting an agreement, not only with Graham Glasgow, but also the former Baltimore Ravens Pro Bowl right guard Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year deal on Monday evening. Now, Zeitler was one of the better guards in the league last year, allowing just 19 pressures, only 4 flags, and 2 sacks. And per Pro Football Focus, look, Zeitler's playing at a high level. This move really helps the Lions avoid a major drop-off in stellar line play after the loss of Jackson. Now, I'm not going to go deep off into Jackson. I really don't think that he played as well as what some people believe. At least per the stats, he did not have a great year last year. I feel that he was grossly overpaid, and the Rams overpaid. So I do view Zeitler as a stopgap, though. I don't think that this is anything but that. Someone, that can start day one. He can help get, what should be a rookie, drafted in this draft, up to speed. And this would also allow the Lions to bring, some young rookies along slowly and help them develop, none of this feet to fire type of baptism that we'll talk about a few times in here. But still, it's one area of concern. This offensive line, it's still an area of concern. And that is because Taylor Decker is a free agent next year. Frank Ragnow's injury history continues to mount and be an issue where, he was even sending shockwaves this offseason, of worry to the fan base and the team that he didn't know if he was coming back in 2024. And following the NFC, title loss, maybe he was just over emotional, but Frank Ragnow decided to come back a couple weeks later. But I do believe that adding to this room still makes sense. And the Lions can now approach the draft with the best player available style that we know Brad Holmes covets the most. I am expecting the Lions to add, the next starting guard, whether that's right or left, and the Taylor Decker replacement in this draft, which, I hope that the elite offensive line play will remain, into the future. Right now we're pretty set for 2024. We have some capable backups. I do not believe that, players like Coyote Awosika or Kobe Sorsdal, are the answer at all. It's time for the Lions to address this and hit it hard and get ready for the future. Yeah, you might carry a couple of extra bodies on the roster, but I don't think that it's, necessarily a smart thing to wait until next year or wait until Frank Ragnow goes down. Or if he goes down. I'm hoping he doesn't, but that's always the case, with the injuries that he's carrying. So we have a stellar offensive line. Absolutely. I believe it's going to be a top 5 offensive line once again. Matter of fact, it could possibly be better than last year's, the way that it looks on paper right now. And that's pretty exciting. But I just want to keep this a strength. I mean, that would be my focus. And I'm sure it's Brad Holmes' focus too. Next up, wide receiver. I don't think that this is any question to anybody that the Lions do need some help here. The Lions decided to bring back Donovan Peoples-Jones on a 1-year kind of prove me wrong deal, not a prove it deal, but prove me wrong deal worth $2 million. Josh Reynolds remains available at this time of recording this video, and it's clearly or certainly possible that he and the Lions could agree to a deal still. I would not put that, out of question at this point. There are some teams that could definitely use the services of a receiver like Josh Reynolds. And I really don't expect him to last too much longer on the open market. But I'm still holding out hope that there is a potential that he could come back on a relatively, team-friendly deal should the Lions not be able to do anything in the draft that makes, sense for them. But I don't expect Reynolds to last that long. I really don't. Now, look, the NFC Championship game really soured some fans against Reynolds, and I get it. But there was a lot that went on in that game. There was a lot that went on in this season. And, what some are not really grasping, in my opinion, is that Reynolds has been one of the most dependable receivers, not only for Jared Goff, but in the league as a whole. Over the last 6 seasons, he's been one of the most consistent to do it. He's not producing gaudy stats, but he's producing at a high level. Reynolds has the trust of Ben Johnson, and of course, Jared Goff. I mean, their chemistry is spot on. So he can fit into just about any offense, and one of the best route runners who seems to always be on time and in the right spot, which is an amazing quality to have. I don't think I need to explain just how valuable being on time and in the right spot is. We've seen, number 12 overall pick take his sweet time adjusting to the league and starting to find his footing, but with more drops than passes last season through the first 4 games that he was back in 2023, and kind of known as a freelancer, Jameson Williams still has not fully earned the trust of the room. A good blocker? Yes. Insane speed? Absolutely. Many other athletic scores that are off the charts? Sure, absolutely. But none of that really matters if you can't be to your spot in the NFL when everything the offense does is based on timing. So that's my biggest concern for Jameson, and that's why I'm expecting the Lions to add a wide receiver early in this draft to prepare for the future, an inevitable injury, and secure Jared Goff with what should be a true X receiver, a boundary receiver. Should Amon-Ra or Sam Laporta go down, we need another weapon available. Otherwise, this offense will stall out. You also have to consider the fact that a deal with Amon-Ra just may be too rich for Brad Holmes' plans in the offseason or this season even. There's always that possibility. And adding another, highly valuable X receiver to this roster right now, and if he goes out and has a really good game, may open some eyes in Allen Park and may change the way that the Lions consider extending Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I'm a huge Amon-Ra St. Brown fan. I'm just pointing out the facts. Next up is the edge. Are the Lions done on the defensive line? Are they done at edge? It's a great question. And I think that they're going to have to look to add further options to this room. I really do. I think it's a great question, like I said, and it seems to have maybe the easiest answer. Maybe. The Lions have Aiden Hutchinson leading this group. And James Houston is returning from an injury. Outside linebacker, plays up on the edge as well, who should be healthy, ready to go for 2024. Houston has kind of been relegated to a situational pass rusher, third downs quite often, and off the edge due to his undersized frame. He really doesn't fit on the line, and he's not fast enough to be, an outside linebacker. He's kind of a tweener, to be honest with you. But he does possess some elite speed and get off and bend when he is on the edge. And I know that doesn't make sense because I just said he's too slow, but for whatever reason, his bend and speed on the edge is elite as a pass rusher on third down. The Lions also have John Kaminsky, who is also a hybrid lineman of sorts that can also play off the edge. And alongside him, you still have Josh Paschal, who, again, kind of fits into that hybrid role, but not quite, a dedicated pass rusher. And he's entering his 3rd season already. We haven't seen anything out of the guy yet. So then the Lions decided to go out in free agency and add Marcus Davenport on a 1-year deal. Didn't really have much of a 2022 season at all, but he did have a pretty good 2021. And this is a signing that didn't seem to really excite anyone around the league, especially the fan base, who largely, rightfully so, have been clamoring for a top-tier edge rusher really since day one. But after day one of free agency, still looking for that top-tier free agent to join this team. But all but a few remained after day one, and they all quickly disappeared. So, look, the Lions shocked the league when they signed the 18-sack Canadian Football League Defensive Player of the Year, Mathieu Betts. But this largely seems like a trial and error type of signing. Now, I believe in this guy's ability. I've watched his tape. I put out a video I think that he has phenomenal opportunity with this Lions team. We just don't know how well he's going to translate to the NFL just yet. So I'm not going to hold my breath. I feel like the Lions are building depth through this signing. Maybe somebody they will have to develop a little bit and attempting to find that, that diamond in the rough in an effort to save cap and increase production. I mean, that's what Brad Holmes is all about. If he can go out and find that diamond in the rough and save money and somehow get a crazy amount of production out of it, man, that's just up his alley. That's what he does. Now, however, there is a difference, in my opinion, between, having depth and having game changers or game changing difference makers. There's only one true difference maker at edge right now, and that's Aiden Hutchinson. If you ignore his short arms, the issues with detaching from single blocks, the lack of pass rush moves, seems like all he has is a spin and a bowl, and kind of a paltry pass rush win rate. He's getting a ton of pressure, but he's barely winning 11% of the reps. And that should pause you for concern, because the top tier elite defensive ends in this league are near 20% in their pass rush win rate. And that's what we're hoping is going to happen this season. That Hutchinson should really benefit largely from the beefed up defensive tackle position, DJ Reader, which should lend to an explosive season for Aiden. I think that we'll finally be able to see Aiden expand his wings a little bit and become the player that we're hoping that he does become. It is season 3. So this is definitely the no excuse season, because after this season for Aiden, that's when negotiations can start to open up for a new contract. I want to see Aiden bust out this season. I think that having the defensive tackle position beefed up was a big opportunity for Aiden to spread his wings. The Lions did meet with some edge rushers at the combine and also virtually so far. Edge rushers Nelson Caesar, Marshawn Nealand, Darius Robinson, Braylon Trice, and Javon Solomon, who's also a Sam linebacker. So it would appear just by these names, these 5 names, that the Lions are potentially looking to add to this edge position early in the draft and later in the draft. I think that they could be adding 2 edge rushers to help bolster this position, not only for now, but also in the future. And the reason why I say that is because Marshawn Nealand and Darius Robinson are probably the only 2 that are going to go pretty high in the draft. Braylon Trice could slip down to the 3rd round. Javon Solomon and Nelson Caesar, potentially 4th, maybe 5th round guys, more than likely 4th round guys. But we don't have a 4th round pick. So I think that, the easiest answer here is the Lions need one for sure. They need one. They need one dominant guy that can come in and have a good rookie season with this revamped defensive line. But there could be the potential, like I said, to add 2. And I don't see that the Lions are done just yet. There's just really nobody else in free agency that makes sense. So I expect the Lions to draft heavily on the edge position. Next up, cornerback. The Lions could still use some help at corner. I don't think that that's any mystery. The Lions have drafted only 1 corner within the first 3 rounds over the last 3 seasons. And that player, Ifeatu Melifonwu, is not even a corner. He's a safety. So Brad Holmes tried to fix this position last year in 2022, brought in, Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, CJ Gardner-Johnson. The problem was only one of them played the entire season. And the other 2 combined for less than 200 snaps over the entire season. And I don't think I need to explain that was Emmanuel Mosley and CJ Gardner-Johnson, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. So in 2023, the Lions have once again attacked this position in the offseason. This time they re-signed Emmanuel Mosley, who's now coming off of his 2nd ACL injury in as many seasons, adding Carlton Davis via trade from the Bucs. They also signed former Las Vegas Raider slot corner Amik Robertson to a 2-year deal. The main concern here, though, that I'm going to point out is that there's no real long-term options here at all. They don't exist on this roster. Cam Sutton is in year 2 of 3. And suffices to say, he had a baptism by fire in 2023. Davis has 1 year left on his deal. And he's struggled to stay healthy, missing more than 23% of regular season games over the last 6 seasons due to injury. Mosley, he's on a 1-year prove me wrong deal, coming off of his 2nd torn ACL, like I just said, while Robertson will only have 1 season remaining on his contract in Detroit after the 2024 season. So he's signed through 2025. So what I'm trying to point out here is we still don't have long-term commitments for anybody in the DB room outside of Brian Branch. The corner position is one that suffers the second most injuries in the NFL after running backs and wide receivers. It would be a very smart play to find a starting caliber man cover corner or press man corner that does not need to be baptized in season one. Somebody that, you can kind of bring this young buck up slowly, develop his skills, hone his skills with the veteran leaders that we now have on this team. And I would also put it, I wouldn't put it past Brad that he drafts 2 corners in this draft. Really, again, solidifying this position for now and the future, because we don't have anybody signed really past 2025 at all. And only a couple of guys are signed in 2025. So next up, we'll talk about the safety position since we're in the DB room. And this one's not as bad, but the Lions are in a tricky spot here after letting go CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think that, the fact that Ifeatu Melifonwu is in the last year of his rookie deal is a little nerve-wracking. And clearly, he's the best safety on this roster, not named Brian Branch. Kirby Joseph is entering year 3 of his 4-year deal, and he's signed through 2025. But he also struggled a bit in 2023, did not have the best grades at all. And the Lions would be wise here to prepare for the eventual need at the position. Brian Branch is a free safety. That's what he is known for. And he's playing the nickel slot right now. With the addition of Amik Robertson, I do believe this would allow Branch to slide back to the free safety role in a pinch or permanently, quite honestly. This would have to move Kirby back to a backup role, and it would keep Ifeatu Melifonwu the strong safety. Given the contract shortage, though, and the lack of depth behind Kirby and Iffy, I would really expect the Lions to be active still in free agency and try to find somebody that clearly is a starter that can come in day one and be a great asset to this DB room. But also, as an alternate, finding someone in the draft that they can also develop slowly. So this is, even though it doesn't appear to be, kind of an issue. I think that the Lions could draft one, buy one, free agency and draft. Same thing with corner. I think that they could draft 1, if not 2. So I think the DB room is far from being settled. And even the backup guys and the guys that, were signed to futures contracts or whatever, these are not guys that we want on this roster. This roster needs to be beefed up a little bit. I would much rather see that the Lions go into this season heavy than light. And I think that that's going to be some consideration by Brad Holmes to figure that out as to how much of it makes sense, to carry heavy at certain positions. Last year, we saw that the Lions entered the season with 8 offensive linemen, which was weird. Usually, that's a 9 or a 10 position group, coming out of, the 53-man cuts. And they went heavy in defensive, line, defensive edge. So somewhere it's going to flip-flop this year where I think that they're going to be heavy in other places. Lastly, and this one's kind of a funny one, man. We're going to talk about the kicker position. And I say it's funny, but it's really a travesty. This has been a nightmare for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Since 1980, when the Lions drafted Eddie Murray in the 7th round, he remained a Detroit Lion until 1991. Murray was waived in 1992, and the Lions drafted Jason Hanson in the 2nd round. 2nd round. Wow, times were different back then. Hanson played every single game for the Lions from 1992 to 2012, missing just 1 single game in 2005. Then the Lions brought in David Akers in 2013, lasted 1 season, and then Matt Prater from 2014 to 2020. What culminates 40 years, 4 kickers, of which the Lions only had 2 kickers for 31 of the 40 years. And Jason Hanson for 20 of those seasons. The incredible notion, though, that only 11 games were missed between those 4 kickers and only 1 by Hanson is a testament to what the most stable position and highest scoring position the Lions had or was during that time. And no, your kicker should never be your highest scorer. So now we enter this swinging door era of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, who have had 10 kickers, 10, between 2021 and 2023. The Lions started 2021 off with 4 kickers in camp. Riley Patterson, Eldrick Rosas, Ryan Santoso, and Austin Seibert. And then in 2022, with Michael Badgley, Dominic Eberl, and Sam Ficken. That's Ficken. And last season, 2023, with guess who? Riley Patterson, Michael Badgley, and Tony Romo. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's John Parker Romo. Oh, had to do it. Sorry. I had to do it. I definitely see the Lions addressing the issue here, though. If they don't, I don't know what their damn problem is then. I really don't. This is almost laughable. It's the biggest stain on this team right now, not having a reliable kicker. So come on, Brad, just get it done, man. Do something. There's plenty of good kickers in this draft. You can waste pick 249, grab a kicker, dude, be done with it. So that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up by telling you guys that I really appreciate you guys being the best sponsors and supporters of my channel. You guys have been excellent ever since I started. And I appreciate all the compliments and comments that I've been getting in some of the videos and live feeds. You guys are really special, and I appreciate it. So thank you for sticking around. But to recap this video here, look, offensive line, Lions probably need to sign 2. And that's most likely going to come from the draft, where they're going to need a guard and or a tackle. A guard for sure, guard center, and probably a tackle to add to this roster to help develop and build these trenches so that it never becomes a weakness. Also need someone to take over for Zeitler next season, but the inevitable injury does happen, and we cannot have a letdown this year if we want a chance to make it back. Wide receiver is a need. I think that it is a glaring issue right now that, you know, we just don't have enough right there. I don't think that our wide receiver room is that great. Outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who do we have? We have DPJ, who needs to show us something, and Khalif Raymond, who is highly undersized. Yes, he's great in special teams. He's great in the return game. He does make plays on the field, but we're missing some dominant receivers. And in this league, that's a passing league, the Lions need to address this. As far as the edge goes, again, we need a dominant defensive edge on the other side of Aiden. Now that we've addressed the defensive line, it's time for the Lions to finally secure that other bookend spot and go all in 2024. And also make sure that our future is protected. And cornerback and safety, I don't think it's any mystery here. We could use a safety, and we could use at least 1 corner, if not 2, maybe 1 early, 1 later in the draft. And then kicker, like I said, it's time to put this to bed. Draft a kicker, be done with it. There's nobody in the 6th or 7th round that you really want anyway. Just get a kicker, and let's be done. So that's all for this video. Appreciate you guys hanging around and watching and or listening from wherever you are. And until the next one, take care. We'll see you.